Our interview with Michael Rose continues from last week, with Michael meeting Donald Trump.
Donald Trump had just opened Mar-a-Lago. And I was standing in the middle of Mar-a-Lago's ballroom, which was empty at the time, and I was watching Robert Goulet rehearse his act on stage. We were working in conjunction with him, not for his show, but with the dinner dance following his show. At that time, I felt a presence over my shoulder, and I turned around, and there, in all of his glory, was Donald Trump in his white tennis cap, his white sneakers, his white socks, his white tennis shorts, and his white tennis shirt, and with his blonde hair underneath his cap. And he said to me, the first thing he said to me, he said, "We're looking forward to New Year's." And I'm thinking, what is he talking about? This is May. What is he talking about, New Year's? And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, my wife mentioned that maybe we're playing here New Year's, so I just jumped on it and I said, "Oh, yes." I said, "I think we have an engagement with you New Year's Eve." He said, "Yes." He said, "Tell me," he said, "the band leader who's working here presently," he said, "will no longer be working here." He said, "What's the matter with him?" And I knew who that band leader was, but I didn't want to say anything derogatory to Donald. Time thinking this is my first conversation, and what am I going to say something bad about someone else? So I said to him, "I know the band leader," I said, "and he has big shoes to fill because his father was a famous musician." And I said it would be tantamount to having Mickey Mantle's sons come into Yankee Stadium and expect them to do the same thing. He said, "Yeah," he said, "he's a drunk. I have you here," he said, "but the people in Palm Beach," he said, "like you." And he said, "And as far as I'm concerned, you're it in Palm Beach." And he turned and he left.
The Michael Rose Band played for Donald Trump's wedding when he married Melania.
We got a call. Melania would like to speak with you about their wedding. We had a 38-piece orchestra with strings to play a variety of types of music, everything from Bach's etude for the G string to Benny Goodman's Don't Be That Way. We understood that it was a choice between the Boston Pops Orchestra and the Michael Rose Orchestra for their wedding. And they chose the Michael Rose Orchestra, which absolutely delighted us. So I arranged for a rehearsal at WXAL Studios. When I got there, it was surrounded by media. NBC, ABC, Entertainment Tonight, all the local shows, all the shows that were on TV were there to give them an interview, tell them about the wedding that we're doing, because no one was getting any information about that wedding at all. There were some reporters, when they found out about my band playing for the wedding, wanted to know if they could sneak in as musicians sitting in the chairs. They get called from California newspapers who wanted to know what Donald Trump's first song was going to be. I had to keep everything secret. Well, we played the event, and everybody who was anybody was there, from political field, from the sports arena, from entertainment field. Hillary and Bill Clinton were there. As a matter of fact, they were good friends at the time. They had a great relationship. And our first song was Bach's Air for the G string. And as I was conducting the orchestra, which was all in white, with white band stands, with white carpeting, everything, with a white piano, as a matter of fact, everything she wanted, everything white on the stage, white tuxedos. As I was conducting the band, I turned around and I recognized, standing side by side, Chris Matthews from NBC News and Billy Joel. He said, "Was that Bach?" And I said, "Yes, it was. Bach's Air for the G string." He said, "I love Bach." We played accompanying Tony Bennett, who performed, Billy Joel, who performed, Paul Anka, who performed. So we were really the most successful band in South Florida at that time.
Someday, when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. Yes, you're lovely, with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you and the way you look tonight. With each word, your tenderness grows, tearing my fears apart. And that laugh that wrinkles your nose, it touches my foolish heart. Lovely, don't you ever change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. And that laugh that touches my foolish heart. Lovely, don't you ever change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. Ooh, just the way you look tonight.
Michael Rose from Rose Colored Classics. Michael will be back. And now back to our guest, Michael Rose.
I played for Francis Langford's wedding up in Jensen Beach, and I wound up playing in Francis Langford's restaurant in Jensen Beach called The Outrigger. She appeared on a couple of occasions just informally singing with the band.
Once in a while, will you try to give one little thought to me? Though someone else may be nearer your heart. Once in a while, will you dream of the moments I shared with you? Moments before we two drifted apart. In love's smoldering ember, one spark may remain. If love still can remember, the spark may burn again. I know that I'll be contented with yesterday's memory, knowing you think of me once in a while. May remain. If love still can remember, the spark may burn again. I know that I'll be contented with yesterday's memory, knowing you think of me once in a
Francis Langford on BBS. Michael Rose is my guest. I mentioned last hour that he was in the Glenn Miller European Orchestra, and he tells us about that.
During the time that I was teaching school on Long Island, I took a sabbatical for 6 months and went on tour with the Glenn Miller Orchestra in Europe, which was an eye-opening experience because they were enthusiastic. We met with audiences that I didn't believe that probably existed here in the 40s, but still existed in Europe, who were just in love with the Glenn Miller Orchestra, and we toured Germany, France, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Paris, Switzerland. I contracted that band because they wanted people on that band who had degrees in public education. It was sort of a State Department tour where we were integrated with the public school systems. Aside from the concert halls that we played, the public school systems in the various cities and towns that we played. We went in and did clinics with the students, and everybody knew the Glenn Miller Orchestra, and that was a really enriching experience for me because people were very much aware of all of the Glenn Miller music. I played all the Bobby Hackett solos on the band for that particular tour.
A sample of the Glenn Miller Orchestra in Europe with Michael Rose. Michael tells us about leaving Florida and moving to Kansas City.
The work had dwindled in Palm Beach. I came here with the intent of perhaps starting a band. I had the best, and to start all over again would be a little bit of a task for me, although I have my library here and I have all my equipment here, but I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. We're just kind of settling in.
So there may be another Michael Rose band coming up.
Well, Roger already wanted me to come to Findlay, Ohio, and play at one of the parks there. But there is still interest. As a matter of fact, Count Basie, who grew up in Kansas City, although he was born in Red Bank, New Jersey. So there's a history here. You walk into restaurants like a Restoration Hardware, and they're playing Miles Davis instead of some rock and roll. So there's a cultural awareness that I'd like to capitalize upon. But maybe I'll do that as soon as I get a little bit more energy. In the meantime, I'm just trying to maintain playing existence by practicing daily and doing that thing. That is my complete story, if it's worth anything.
A String of Pearls by the Michael Rose Band. More with Michael coming up. Let's return to Michael Rose.
You know, when I joined the business in 1959, 58, 59, business was over. I mean, rock was in. Elvis Presley has made his statement. The Beatles were about to invade us, and so my end of the business went down to the drain. I was working with celebrities who were has-been. I worked with Tony Martin, who by that time was not a popular entertainer. You know, he was a well-known entertainer, but so I was not in the middle of the business, which if I was born 10 years earlier, that would have been my satisfaction because I could have played with the greats. And I played, as I said, I played with the ghost bands with the exception of Les Elgart, Guy Lombardo, Jimmy Palmer, and Gene Krupa. The Miller Band, the Jorsey Band, all the other bands that I played with were ghost bands because the leaders had passed away, and they were just on the road for the people who wanted to hear the music from that band.
It's still remarkable you kept the music out there and kept it alive for a lot of people. I bet they enjoyed that.
Well, that was our purpose at WXCL Television. We were saying that we were trying to preserve and promote the music of the greatest generation, the big band era. That's what those recordings are for. People listen to them and recognize that we did a half-decent job. You can go to my website and where it says listen or CDs, and it'll with a list of everything that's on that CD, and you can listen to each one separately.
When somebody loves you, it's no good unless she loves you all the way. Happy to be near you when you need someone to cheer you all the way. Taller than the tallest tree is, that's how it's got to feel. Deeper than the deep blue sea is, that's how deep it goes if it's real. When somebody needs you, it's no good unless she needs you all the way. Through the good Orlean years and for all those in between years, come what may. Who knows where the road would lead us? Only a fool would say. But if you let me love you, it's for sure I'm gonna love you all the way. So if you let me love you, it's for sure I'm gonna love you all the way, all the
I want to back up a little bit and ask you about, you mentioned you did record for Coral Records with a band. And
yes.
do you
that
have
was just a high school album. No, we recorded at the Coral Records studio.
Oh, okay.
Not for the label. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do have a copy, but I have a solo that I did with that with that band on Moonlight in Vermont.
Oh, good.
But you have to remember this was done back in 1955, so you're not going to hear Count Basie.
Here is that 1955 Farmingdale High School band with Michael Rose. Well, that started Michael Rose on his musical journey.
The picture of the front of the album is called Canteen Dance, and is a picture of my mentor, Marshall, conducting the band, and I'm in the top row.
I asked Michael when he lived in Florida if he ever ran into Buddy Morrow, since Buddy lived in Maitland, Florida.
I did run into him at the Lyric Theater in Stewart, where he was playing with the band, and Buddy was now leaning on a stool in order to play, but he still played trombone. As a matter of fact, yes, I ran into Buddy. It was his 80th or 81st birthday that they celebrated in a performance at the Lyric Theater. And my good friend Walt Andrus, who was singing, was on the band that night. And one of my musicians, a tenor saxophone player in my band, substituted on the band that evening because one of their personnel, one of the saxophone players, was ill, and so I knew the band was performing, and I went to see it. And so, yeah, I did. You just tweaked my memory.
Next week, Michael Rose will be back, and Carol Sloan will be here. Carol will tell us about her time with the Larry Algart Band.